And we're talking about club varieties and how come, you're either in it or you're not in it, and if you're not in it, you feel left out. But the World Apple Report estimates that in 2015, which isn't all that far away, less than 2% of the world apples, and this doesn't include China, will be managed varieties. Less than 2%. So as we look at what we want to do with Michigan in the future, I think clubs have a valuable place. And the thing you have to remember if you're not in a club or a managed variety, it's bringing people into the produce department. There's a lot of clubs, a lot of managed varieties in Europe. Many of them are in pretty serious trouble because they're for a lot of different reasons. Management. A lot of them are apples that were sold on the marketing concept and not on the quality concept. But just a comment from a little further back than you guys are, because you're real close to production. I think we can do more good for our industry in the state and in the world, actually, if we concentrate more on educating our soccer moms and producing a really high quality apple. Every time we pick a variety that is economically mature, as Harold calls them, we shoot ourselves in the foot, because if that soccer mom buys those and maybe are economically mature but aren't fit to eat, they will then next time go to the Twinkie aisle or the chip aisle. So there's a lot of things we can do to impact our industry as we go down this road. Clubs are one way, but I think quality is probably more important than anything else.
We all get excited about some things. Rod's excited about sweet potato. I don't think my next door neighbor will probably ever know or care about sweet potato. I go to the supermarket, every apple on that store shelf looks like the one right next to it. We're growing Gales that look like high-colored Braver, that look like high-colored Jazz, that look like Red Delicious, et cetera, et cetera. So, we got to remember who drives this business is the consumer. So, having said that, today I see competitors of ours from other regions of the world, or in the United States, we're growing some of those same varieties that I dismissed out here. That I thought were just so ordinary that they didn't deserve any place at all. And it's their new managed variety that they have that they're introducing to the marketplace. Now, we are also involved in a couple of those varieties. We've been selling one for going into 4 seasons here. And I can tell you, the money that is spent by, for instance, New Zealand, where everyone is so critical in the years past, as far as how much more money they spent per carton for introduction and market development, tiny compared to what it really takes to get the job done. And I'm not necessarily saying they're the best in the world, but they got a lot more experience than most everybody else in this business. And they've picked some varieties over the course of time that they thought were winners. And a great one is Jazz. Jazz, if you follow, talk to people who grow it, or look at some of the trade publications, what they're saying about Jazz growers, they're all trying to get them to eliminate the royalties and get their costs down because they're losing money at fantastic rates. It's not working. So what I'm saying here is there's an awful lot of risk involved in these new varieties, and probably need to keep that in perspective. There's probably going to be significantly more money lost than there's going to be made in this.
We're obviously lucky enough to be involved in the sweet potato group, and we're excited by that. But when you look at the potential risk that's involved with it, and the concerted effort that needs to go in from a large group of people, it's not a simple process. It's kind of trying to reinvent the wheel. It's interesting, I think, and I think a great benefit from the managed groups is organized marketing. And I'm not necessarily sure that you can't do that on existing varieties and have a certain amount of success. It doesn't necessarily have to be a new managed variety, although you can get that new buzz out of that. I connected with New Zealand. My wife's a Kiwi, and we get down there quite often. And what Don was saying about the jazz variety is very, very true. Here is one that Anza really hung their hat on, and thought that was going to be a major, major winner. And the growers in New Zealand are suffering tremendously. Some people have 40, 50, 60% of their acreage in the jazz. The ones that thought they were very lucky and are suffering because of that. The returns just have not been adequate to recoup all their costs that are involved. They're continually looking at new varieties, but that just gives you an idea of some of the risk that's involved with this. I think that also comes to the point where in Europe there are too many managed varieties. How are you going to push something else off the shelf to get your newest and latest variety going? And from Wanda's comment that only 2% of the apples in the world are managed varieties, I think that's very relevant. I think anybody that's involved in the group is going to keep that as a small percentage of what they do. To me, it's almost venture capital that you're putting into a managed variety. It's a potential high risk, but if you do enough of them, there's going to be hopefully a high return on some, but I would guess a very high loss on others.